It's now time to head over to Folkways FM for October 2024's Almanac. The warmest of welcomes to October's show. Scots Gaelic in Davir, Irish, Derafor, Manx, Jerry Fawe, Welsh, Hydref, Cornish, Mishedra, Old English, Winter Fulleth, Winter Fullness, and Wine Manath, the wine month. If you woke up in Sunderland today, northeast England, you saw the sun rise at 7:37 and set at 18:03. Swansea, South Wales, sunrise 7:42 and set 18:19. And Sligo, the northwest of Ireland, sunrise 8:04 and set at 18:32, giving days of around 10.5 hours of sunlight at the moment. In a couple of weeks, it will be All Hallows, Samhain, Calan Gaeaf, Halloween. At Halloween, we have a range of end-of-harvest themes, but combined with a nod to the potent liminality of this October-November axis. This time period is one of the cross-quarter festival dates, a line which takes us from Imbolc, 1st of February, through Beltane, 1st of May, Lunasa and Lammas, 1st of August, and All Hallows, 1st of November. Halloween finds its calendar opposite, therefore, in Beltane, the 1st of May, and it can be seen as the mirrored retraction to Beltane or Beultana's growth. Interestingly, beyond this obvious difference of focus, many of the rites between the two festivals are not dissimilar, i.e., the veils between worlds being thin and spirits being on the move. Beltane Eve is associated very strongly with the fairies, the Tulith Teg, the Sidhe, and it was seen as a somewhat dangerous time for us mere mortals. To quote the great Eddie Lenahan, if you are out on May Eve, you are considered out of your mind. Unfortunately, a lot of the potency of May Eve has not survived into contemporary culture, but interestingly, its opposite, Halloween, has. You can dislike modern versions of the festival as much as you like, but I always find it interesting every year how strong its image remains. Even though we can be dismissive of all the tacky rubbish in the shops, they are still unbelievably referencing ancient closing of the harvest festivals. The transition from these ancient festivals to modern Halloween most accurately reflects a blend of customs and beliefs from across the Indo-European world. I will get into more detail on these different threads another time, because we'll need to comb through quite thoroughly. A major thread, though, that you'll no doubt be familiar with is the Gaelic festival of Samhain, Summer's End. To give us a brief overview, I'll read a section of E. Estin Evans' 1950s Irish Folkways. Quote, "Throughout Ireland, lesser feast days pale in comparison with the culminating festival which marks the end of the dying year on All Hallows Eve. An astonishing amount of lore still clings to Halloween, and we must restrict ourselves to picking out some of the main elements of this crowded occasion. The crops should now all be gathered in, and no fruit should be picked after this date, for the puka, a supernatural being, is busy befouling unpicked fruit at Halloween. The return of the livestock from their summer grazings, once accompanied by their herders, made the occasion one of family reunion, and this is a strong element in the present festival. But it was also a reunion with the ancestral spirits of the family, for Halloween was preeminently a commemoration of the dead, a time when ghosts and fairies were unusually active. The whole of the world of the supernatural astir, and the dead returned to their earthly homes. On that night, the grass-grown homesteads, the fairy raths, were wide open, and the fairies were on the move to winter quarters. It used to be thought unlucky not to make preparations for the return of the dead by leaving the door of the house open, putting out tobacco and traditional dishes such as sowens, a kind of porridge, and setting seats around the fire. The games and amusements which alone survive have commonly degenerated into pranks and horseplay, but one can detect in them echoes of magical observances. The many divination customs may well have begun as rites to avert evil or to secure the benefits, which they now, in modern times, just pretend to forecast. Among the things involved in these games and divinations are apples, nuts, oatcakes, cabbages, a ball of yarn, articles made of straw and rushes, and herbs such as yarrow. For this episode of the Almanac, I'm going to be focusing on Iestyn Evans' last point regarding Halloween divinations. I found Iestyn Evans' own conclusion there rather interesting. This line of, "The many divination customs may well have begun as rites to avert evil or to secure the benefits, which they now in modern times just pretend to forecast." So Iestyn Evans is suggesting that the modern Halloween games are perhaps a more passive or degenerative echo of what might have been more active rituals. They may echo their ancient origins whilst not quite having the bite. This is just one way of looking at it though. We see divinatory practices and games throughout the year, specifically May the 1st, beginning of summer, midsummer, mid-June, harvest festivals, and then midwinter. Often on the eve before a festival, one is instructed to observe the conditions of the family fire, or to pick a flower and count its petals, or to gaze at your face in a mirror, all with the aim of receiving answers to questions. Whether you agree with Iestyn Evans that these practices might be degenerations of older rites, other ways to look at it might be that, well, these liminal points are the perfect time to ask questions about one's future. The veil between one season has waned as we begin slipping into another. We are momentarily between different quarters of the year. And what question has bugged humanity from time immemorial? Perhaps existential musings? Is God real? Our purpose in life? Nope, it's actually, who am I going to shack up with? Oh yes, for obvious reasons really. And we see a whole host of love divinations around the year, All Hallows being no exception. So let's now look at some Halloween love divinations. In Wales, this time of year is Nos Calan Gaeaf. In some parts of Carmarthenshire, it was customary to peel an apple and pay attention to any shapes that it made. If it resembled a letter of the alphabet, that would be the first letter of your future lover's name. For prophetic dreams, a boy should cut 10 ivy leaves and then throw one away and put the rest under his head before he sleeps. A girl should take a wild rose grown into a hoop shape. She should creep through it 3 times, then cut it in silence and go to bed with it under her pillow. A widespread Scottish Halloween divination game used nuts and a toasty fire to foretell one's future. 2 nuts would be named after a specific couple and then placed into the fire. If the nuts burned down to ash, then any union would not prosper. But if they cracked or fused, this was a good sign. Here is a wonderful and slightly creepy Scottish Halloween marriage divination. Reverend Norman MacDonald from the Isle of Skye described this practice to Callum Ian MacLean in 1952. A girl would throw a ball of wool over a wall, holding onto its end, and call, "Who is there at the end of my rope?" until a voice answered with a name. This would be the name of the girl's future lover. This had to be done late at night. Who is there at the end of my rope? Kate Manson from the Shetland island of Foula described to Sandy Fenton the following practice when she was a girl. It's the same as the last one, but instead of a wall, the wool was dropped down the chimney of an old watermill. And with the rope dangling down, the young female voice would ask, "Who is there at the end of my rope?" Kate Manson from Foula also told that another practice was for a girl to go to a big standing stone and go 3 times around it one way and then 3 times around the other. The first person she saw after that was to be her future partner. Fingers crossed. Johanna Leith from Orkney told Alan Bruford in 1977 about the process of dipping a garment sleeve in water, importantly, where 3 lairds' land crossed, so 3 separate landowners where their lands intersected. So that patch not fully belonging to any one of them in particular, referencing the concept of liminality there. The shirt was left over a fire to dry, and it was said that the first person who approached the shirt would be the person you would marry. Brucey Henderson from Yell in Shetland also had evidence of the shirt washing right. As he described it, on the night of Halloween, a girl might wash her blouse in a stream under a bridge where a corpse had crossed for a burial in the churchyard. Quite specific there. As she left the stream, the girl was supposed to see the person she would marry passing by. For more information on the Scottish customs I've mentioned, please see the show notes where I have referenced their origins. You can listen to many of the accounts. Many of them are in Gaelic, but some are in English also. In Ireland, as well as E. Eston Evans mentioning the various rites, there's also this interesting form of divination in the form of the Irish barmbrack cake, where various large charms were baked into a cake for guests to find. When the cake was served, each guest checked to see if they had received any charms in their slice. The charms received indicated what awaited them in the coming year. Common pieces include a key for travel, a ring for marriage, a coin for wealth, and a thimble for spinsterhood. In England, we see many of the same themes I've outlined. We see hazelnut divination, not dissimilar to the Scottish practice. 2 groups of hazelnuts were placed in the hearth fire, one with the names of eligible bachelors and the other with the names of eligible maidens. When the nuts popped, the names of the pairs were romantically linked. You can just imagine all of the local gossips' tongues wagging there. We also see a general widespread focus on apples. If you peel an apple, the shape of the peel was said to indicate the initial of your future partner, much like the Welsh tradition. We also have this very interesting one, the eating of an apple in front of a mirror whilst combing your hair. This practice, so the eating of an autumnal fruit, whilst almost getting yourself into a meditative state with the combing of the hair whilst gazing into your reflection, was said to conjure an image of your future lover. Whilst at first this might seem a bit daft, there's actually all sorts of symbolism there that I'll leave with you. In 14th century England, women would bob for apples floating in water, sounds familiar, attempting to bite hold of an apple that had been given the name of their desired partner. The number of bites needed might determine their potential happiness or suitability for one another. Yeah, you just keep trying to bite this apple, and covered in teeth marks, it just keeps floating away. In the 20th century in England, these divination methods became party games, much like Easton Evans noted of the Irish traditions. From the old world to the new world, heading to the States, I found a charming 1914 article in Philadelphia's Evening Public Ledger with the title "Frivolous Follies and Fancies Fantastic That Fascinate Halloween's Maid." As the article makes clear, in the Victorian era and into the first decades of the 20th century, Halloween's focus was less on kids and candy and more on the romantic desires of young single men and women. The piece then includes a number of popular US divinatory customs. These include a near repetition of the combing of the hair in the mirror. Reading from the article, "The mirror test. You must stand alone before a mirror and comb your hair by candlelight. A single candle should be used for this occasion. You will then see in the glass the face of your future life companion." Continuing to read from the article, another delightful game is played with a mirror. The moon should be shining brightly, and the guest must walk several paces backward in the moonlight, holding a looking glass in the hand and gazing all the time into the looking glass. If the following verse is repeated, the face of the guest's future partner will appear in the glass. "Round and round, O stars so fair, ye trail and search out everywhere. I pray you, sweet stars, now show to me this night who my future lover will be." We can clearly see how the old world has influenced these new world customs. It's interesting when people complain about Halloween being some kind of American import, which I've heard many times. This couldn't be further from the truth. The US Halloween is a very interesting blend of different customs, including quite strongly the European, reflected back across the water at us. You will currently be able to see October's moon, the hunter's moon or the blood moon. This used to be the time we prepared for the coming winter months by hunting, slaughtering livestock and preserving meat for food. This October moon was also the start of the Anglo-Saxon winter. The Venerable Bede was an English Benedictine monk at the monastery of St. Peter. He wrote many texts on the traditions of the Anglo-Saxon people in the 7th century. To quote Bede, "The old English people split the year into two seasons, summer and winter. They called the month when the winter season began Winterfulleth, a word composed of winter and full moon, because winter began on the first full moon of that month being October." It is also currently the Orionids meteor shower, which will be at its peak between Monday the 21st to Tuesday the 22nd. The sun enters Scorpio on Wednesday, October the 23rd. Many happy returns if you're celebrating your birthday this month. Moving down from the heavens to the hedgerows, look out for sloes at the moment, perfect for the winter warmer of sloe gin. Of course, it is mushroom season once again. You can find field and wood bluets, meadow wax caps, slippery jack, and coconut scented milk caps, amongst many others. And of course, it is chestnut season. And to see us out, here is Meeting Midnight by Calan Gaeaf. I met Midnight. Her eyes were sparkling pavements after frost. She wore a full-length dark blue raincoat with a hood. She winked. She smoked a small cheroot. I followed her. Her walk was more a shuffle, more a dance. She took a path to the river. Down she went. On midnight's scent, I heard the 12 cool syllables, her name, chime from the town. When those bells stopped, midnight paused by the water's edge. She waited there. I saw a girl in purple on the bridge. It was 1 o'clock. Hurry, midnight said. It's late, it's late. I saw them run together. Midnight wept. They kissed full on the lips, and then I slept. The next day I bumped into 4:30. He was a bore.